So there's been a lot of talk in the last 24 hours around Ibou Konate, whether he'd sign a new contract or not, and there has been more and more talk from Spain, from Marca, which usually I would say Marca is not that reliable, and they try to kind of put this news out to kind of put pressure, I think. So it's probably communication from Madrid as well, but they were spot on with a lot of what happened with the Trent saga. So I think with what we saw in the past, we do have to consider a little bit these reports from Marca, which are saying that Real Madrid are advancing in their negotiations for Ibou Konate. And let me just say something. Earlier in the summer, I was confident that Ibou Konate was going to stay just because of where this Liverpool project is right now and the fact that losing a player like him on a free would be pretty detrimental considering his worth. You know, he's worth probably 50 to 60 million pounds in this market, and it's not smart to lose someone like that on a free. Of course he has delivered over the years, but that's just kind of his market value. And now some people are saying, oh, sell him in January, but that's not how it works. If he's set on going to Real Madrid and Real Madrid say, no, we won't bid for him in January, we'll wait in the summer, then Liverpool don't have any power in those negotiations. The player is going to run his contract down and Real Madrid will get him on a free, so that's not no longer an option, I think. But I will say now I'm a lot less confident, and I am really disappointed by that because I absolutely love Ibou Konate. I have his shirt here. I'm half French. I'm actually going to see him live tonight because I'm going to the French-Iceland game, so look, stay tuned for some content around that. But, I love Ibou Konate. However, do I think he's replaceable? I think he is. I think there's very few players in this Liverpool team that I would say are irreplaceable, especially considering how well, our recruitment team is. I fully back whoever we do bring in to be a quality center back, whether that it's probably going to be Mark Gahey and then another player. But just what's frustrating is, again, losing a player like that on a free, and the way that Real Madrid seem to be able to do it time and time again. They know how to get into these players' heads. And listen, I do think this is very different to the Trent situation because here, from everything I've seen, the reports are saying it's more so Ibou Konate clearly values himself at a certain price range in terms of wages, and from what we've seen, it's probably around the £200,000 per week. I think probably Real Madrid is willing to pay that. Why? Because they're getting him on a free. So it's easier for them to kind of account for that, not having to pay for a big fee, if that makes sense. And from a Liverpool point of view, I don't think we're gonna, if we don't feel that he's worth those £200,000 per week, I don't think we're gonna pay. And our stance is probably yes, he is eventually replaceable. Like I said, very few players in this Liverpool team are irreplaceable, like a Virgil van Dijk, like a Mohamed Salah. That's why we paid big money to give them those extensions that usually we don't pay that kind of money, but clearly they're outliers, and they have also delivered for so many years. And most importantly, what I think probably is the number one, I guess, the base level attribute that our team look at, I think it's player availability. I really think so. And there's no better two players to represent that than Virgil van Dijk and Mohamed Salah, right? Virgil had a freak injury one season. Remember that Pickford, tackle? I don't know how he didn't get sent off. I know it was after VAR, but yeah, that Pickford tackle meant he was out for so long. But other than that, when you look at Virgil's player availability and how many games he's played in single seasons, it's just unbelievable. And then Mohamed Salah, same. He's only missed a handful of games. I think that's the number one attribute we look at. And Ibou Konate, that's not his forte. You know what I mean? He's a very, very good player when he stays fit. But he's had his injury issues in the past, and that's one of the reasons why I think we're probably not willing to offer him the kind of money that he feels he deserves, and probably rightfully so, because look, his agent's probably been talking to the market for the last, other teams that could be interested in the market the last 6 months. Real Madrid, I bet you, are willing to pay that kind of money, like I said before. So it's normal that he's looking for his value in the market, And the way where I think this is different from the Trent situation, I think with Trent, we were willing to offer him in the end. Maybe we left it too late, but I think in the end we were willing to offer him major wages because we see him as an outlier. There's no other right back in the world like him. And I think in the end he went to Real Madrid not for money reasons, but purely for a new challenge reason, But the way Real Madrid do things, like I said, for those of you that are hoping that we somehow sell him in January and then bring in Gahey, that's not going to be the reality. The way Real Madrid do things, they set their sights on a free transfer and they'll get that player on a free transfer. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, they can say, if Liverpool says, listen, we're going to sell him to another club. If Ibou Konate already has his eyes set on Real Madrid, that's what's going to end up happening, you know, unfortunately. And like I said, I'm very disappointed from a point of view of being half French and a Liverpool fan. But I also, now we have Hugo Ekitike in the team, but also, like I said, no player is bigger than the club, you know, and if our recruitment team, which I think is the best in the world, doesn't feel like he's worth that value for whatever reason, then I'm gonna back them. And we are so blessed. We need. I often try to take a step back with this, take a step back and say thank you for the fact that we as Liverpool fans fully trust the way we run behind the scenes. That when big decisions like these are made, I fully back the process. I trust what's going on, and that is such a blessing because you look at other clubs around like Man United where it's just a disaster off the pitch. Imagine how stressed the fans are every transfer window, with everything that's going on. We can just relax and know that the right things are going on, you know, and that's something we can never forget. But yeah, I mean, it's just to say that in the end, I unfortunately do think he's going to leave on a free. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm just leaning towards that now because of the fact that as the more time goes on, the less confident I am that he'll stay. You know what I'm saying? But let me know how you guys are feeling about the Ibou situation. Do you think he'll stay? Do you think he'll leave? And how are you feeling about it all? But yeah, anyways, guys, hope you have a beautiful day. And I hope I'll be able to bring you some sick content from the French-Iceland game tonight. I'm going to have to wear this because I'm in the French end, but honestly, if Iceland got a win, I would be even more buzzing because they are the underdogs. And obviously, since I'm half French, half Icelandic, this is almost like my personal derby. And I'm hoping somehow we get an underdog story tonight. But anyways, guys, I'll see you in the next one. All the best. Ciao, guys.